This is me when I started printing miniatures. I was a complete noob. At that point in time, the information about resin printing was extremely sparse, and there was a lot of misinformation passed off as gospel. So you had to test for yourself to see what actually worked and what didn't. I effectively went into resin printing semi-blind. That might be a stupid idea, but it makes for better content. I made a ton of mistakes. I want you to learn from my mistakes. These are the things I wish I knew before I started drowning myself in resin miniatures. Number 1. You likely don't have a space very suitable for printing. I remember that feeling when I ordered my first printer. It was summertime in pandemic season, so working from home was the thing. I had it all planned out. While I was in boring Zoom meetings, I could print magnificent miniatures on a printer. I ordered what at the time was a beast of a machine, the Mars 1. Today I realize how bad a purchase it really was, but more on that later. This is me fumbling about setting it up. My intention was to print in a spare room in a small summer residence. I started out putting the printer on a shaky surface in a room where the floor was not even at all. It printed, but it was pretty. It turns out when you try to turn a liquid into a solid with very fine detail, it's much easier to do on an even surface and without that surface wobbling about. The room had ample ventilation, and since it was summer, plenty of heat. But what surprised me was how much the smell of the resin seeped out into the whole house, even when the door was closed and all the windows were open. I knew the printer produced volatile organic compounds, and I had my resin resistant gear in order. But this still made me wonder, how toxic is the resin printing really? I was very surprised to see how little actual research had gone into figuring this out. We know VOCs are bad for you in the long run and you should minimize exposure, but the chemical combo in your specific resin, no one knows what it really does to you over time. It might be harmless, it might not. To this day, the research papers on this very subject are extremely sparse. In the description of the video, I will put the links for the research papers I have found, but please comment if you know of anything interesting that is of value here. So back to me printing for the first time. I had a problem. The spare room was not going to work for printing. The smell seeped out into the house, and the noise from the machine meant it could not run overnight. Back then, printing was quite time consuming, which we will talk about later, so it had to run overnight. All this meant I had to time my prints and cleaning very carefully, something that was not part of my glorious print while I work plan. Now, the interweb's golden solution to this problem of smell and fumes is often to use a grow tent. But unless you put ventilation into that grow tent, you're just trapping the fumes and releasing them when you open them. As a newbie in the printing space, I was very reluctant to invest more into printing before I knew I really liked it. Oh, that sweet summer child I was decided to do the sensible thing and move my janky setup into a shed in the garden. That worked great for a while. Then winter came and the temperature was almost impossible to print in. And that's number 2 thing I really wish I knew before I started printing. You see, temperatures make a dramatic impact on how the resin behaves. At high temperatures, the viscosity of the resin is lower, so it's more runny, it prints a bit faster and just works plain better. At lower temperatures, the resin viscosity is higher, it gets more rigid, it prints slower and gives weird fails and sometimes doesn't work at all. So the same settings, machine and resin at 20 degrees Celsius will have a slightly faster optimal cure time per layer than at 25 degrees Celsius. This is often not a big deal and some resins work totally fine at 20 degrees Celsius, others need higher temperatures. A small side tangent. What a lot of people do not know is that the heat from the screen and the exothermic reactions of the resin curing gives quite a lot of heat really. It depends on the printer and the resin how much heat it actually produces. But as an example, the resin in the vat of my Mars 3 with Sunno standard resin will be 5 degrees higher from start to print to finish print. On my other printers, there's a much less difference from start to finish. This is not generally a big issue, but if you want the temps to be consistent, you can preheat the resin a bit before pouring it in the vat, and then it can sort of stay that high temperature. Anyway, higher temps are often more better. But when you go lower in temps, things start to get ugly. The biggest issue for beginners is likely when the temperature falls over the course of the print. You're not running at the ideal exposure time, but that's unlikely to cause big issues. The big issue is that you can suddenly have a layer that fails to cure and adhere properly to the layer above it, likely causing a mid-print failure, which is extremely annoying. And this was exactly what happened to little Peter here. You see, this was back when screens were not mono screens, but RGB screens. No, not the LED RGB on your gaming machine, but just colors on the screen. And those things were extremely slow for printing. We're talking 9 to 10 seconds per layer. So to print just a normal miniature model, I had to print overnight. But the temperature difference from when I started the prints and 12 hours later was very big. So I ended up putting a bag over the printer to capture the heat it produces. And I also tried the janky solution with a brew belt. It worked, but if you plan to print in a space where enough heat will be an issue, I suggest you get one of those newfangled printers with a heated vat. It's much more efficient and there's less risk of burning your house down with your hacky heating solutions. If you need an overview of consumer resin printers, the specs, features and so on, I have a free table you can use. You can filter by heated vat and see what your options really are there. The grow tent route is also not a bad idea. The bonus there is that you have to peruse websites that are mainly intended for growing very funny herbs. So I expect a visit from the DEA any day now. The next thing I really wish I had known a bit more about was how resin cures in UV light and how much UV light there is in the sun. Before winter, my printing went rather well. For a long time, I did my cleaning in the shed, just besides the printer. It was janky with my 2 strainer jars and an old toothbrush. That's how we did it. It worked. Sadly, it was also a very warm experience. Turns out, tight gloves and a gas mask, it's not super fun in a hot, closed environment. I was curing my prints in the sun to keep my initial investment into the gear low. And if you've tried this, you know it takes a ton of time and a lot of sunlight to cure models, so it's no longer sticky. My extremely faulty conclusion was this. Since it took so long to cure the finished print completely, it would likely be possible to clean the print outside in the shade without it curing. That would be much more pleasant than the experience inside my cramped shed. So I tried it and it was a disaster. If I had thought just 10 more seconds about it, I might have realized that rays bounce. So while I was cleaning the prints in the shade, it was still exposed to a lot of UV light. And while it takes a lot of UV light to fully cure the print, it doesn't take long to just cure a bit of resin and make it very sticky. So before I could even get those miniatures of the build plate, all of the liquid resin on the model had cured. All details were lost and I had fused cured resin all over my build plate. Super yikes. I just made a mistake and learned a good lesson about UV light. I also learned that hot water will make cured resin much more easy to get off a build plate, so you don't have to chip it off bit by bit. Lesson learned. I now had a lot of water contaminated with resin, and since I'd been printing for a few months, I also had a lot of cured support structure I had saved for, well, God knows what reason, I just couldn't throw it out. Not to mention I had gone through a lot of nitrile gloves and a ton of paper towel and a lot of resin. And my alcohol was getting pretty cloudy from the resin and didn't really work that well anymore for cleaning. That led me down a stupid rabbit hole of getting resin out of alcohol, but that's a topic for another video. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work that great. And a few days later, my screen broke down, and once I got a replacement and replaced it, which was really cumbersome, I had to change my FEP because I tore it, and these are the things I wasn't prepared for. How much waste management you need to do, how much of the resin ends up being useless supports, and lastly, how many damn consumables you have to take care of. Yeah. consumables. In games, they are the potion and scrolls you save for that tough fight that never really comes along, so you save them all for the end of the game. In printing, consumables are a nice way of saying things that we expect to break and you need to pay for. As I told you, this was an RGB screen and it was rated for running for about 500 hours. That's compared to a mono screen today that's rated for 2000 hours and can cure a layer in 2.5 seconds instead of 10 seconds. But mine only lasted about 100 hours of on-screen time before it fritzed, and I didn't know this was a thing. I might have killed it myself, who knows what newbie me was doing. Anyway, what you need to know is this. Your screen will break down, your FEP needs to be changed, your alcohol needs to be changed and or filtered if you can. You need more gloves, you will turn into this freaky version of a trash man from World War I. So while the printer was cheap, all of the supplies added up in cost, and I ended up using more time on this than I had initially wanted to do. I had wanted to head print and get some miniatures. Not to mention I started out with cheap brittle resin and I kinda hated it. No one told me it would break that easily. Thankfully, you can get much better sturdy resin today, and I suggest you do. While all of the consumables and waste was annoying, it did not annoy me as much as the decision to get the Mars 1. To this day, I can still kick myself a bit for buying that stupid thing. It wasn't bad. It was just very obsolete extremely quickly. You see, I made several mistakes when buying a printer. First off, I bought the printer when it was just released and was only about 10 to 20% off the sticker price. When printers come out, they have a sticker price, or MSRP, that they are never really sold for. First they are on pre-order, then they are on some kind of sale, then maybe they are sold for the sticker price for a bit, and then they're back on sale. A lot of printers drop 40% or more in price from launch to a year later, when new releases often comes out in the same series. Now, I'm not saying that things being cheaper than MSRP is bad. It's certainly better than more expensive than MSRP. Thanks, Nvidia. I'm just saying that the sticker price is the loser price. When it comes to printing, you should never pay the sticker price. My second mistake was that I bought it from Amazon instead of directly from Elgu, where it would have been cheaper, at least for my region, and that's often the case. And lastly, I bought the printer when the space was very much in its infancy. The lesson learned: buy a printer after a major leap forward in tech advancement, not right before. And how do you know this? You need to follow the space a bit. But I think 2025 is a pretty good year to get into printing resin. I don't expect any major leaps forward. The resolution wars is slowly sort of ending, and extra features will be how they market new printers. You can learn more about my thoughts on this subject in this video. Oh, and heated vats are becoming more mainstream, which is a big boon for beginners. It's something I can totally recommend. The last thing I wasn't ready for with printing was a shift in my mentality. I was never prepared for how much printing my own miniatures changed my perspective on miniatures in general. I had always thought that Games Workshop prices were high, but not insane. I've been playing their games all my life. They made the best miniatures, so the price was just what it was. Just buy less miniatures and paint the ones you have. But printing my own miniatures altered my brain. I simply cannot help compare the quality, sculpt and price with what I can spit out of my magic box at home. Every time I consider buying plastic models, I think about how much each model costs, how long they will take to assembly, and how few games I get to play with them before Big Corporate changes the rules on me again. This is likely just me becoming older and having less time because kids, but that's just how it is. So now I'm slowly drifting into a world where indie creators are the only models maker I really want to support with my money, and where I want to play the model agnostic, often free, great rule system. I simply love them now, and I thought they were kind of rubbish before. So it turns out owning a magic machine that produces miniatures at home makes you less likely to buy overpriced plastic miniatures from a publicly traded company. If you also consider your relationship with Games Workshop to be complicated, consider printing instead. It might make you think a bit about whether or not that relationship is really healthy for you. And if you want help when starting your printing journey, you can get my beginner's course with bundled free miniatures from various model creators. Or you can watch this video about why 2025 is a great year to get started printing miniatures.